Speaking of pushing up, will this be inflationary, as some in the past have feared?
No, of course not. Not all of this funding hits the economy at once. It's a medium-term and a long-term plan to build a future made in Australia, to make Australia an indispensable part of the global net zero transformation by leveraging our industrial, our energy, our resources and our strengths in skills and our attractiveness as an investment destination. It's a long-term plan, and it's all about the next generation of prosperity for our country, and it's all about ensuring that the private investment that we'll be leveraging will be good for workers and businesses, employers, investors and local communities.
OK, so it goes through the House. Eventually it'll go to the Senate. Does Fatima Payman's absence make that a problem for you?
Well, I think there's an assumption built into that question, Pete. I mean, Fatima Payman is abstaining this week from votes in the Senate. This legislation won't hit the Senate this week. It'll be introduced into the House of Representatives very shortly by me and a subsequent bill by Chris Bowen. When it comes to Fatima Payman, I mean, she's chosen to put herself outside the obligations that all of us sign up to as Labor MPs and senators. I think that's really unfortunate. We are a party of progress, not protest. We are people who believe that we achieve more and make more progress when we act collectively rather than individually. And so this path that Fatima Payman has been chosen by her, not for her. And my hope is that we can welcome her back into the fold at a time when she signs up to the obligations that all the rest of us have signed up to.
OK, so once Future Made in Australia goes to the Senate, you expect her to be in the Labor Party?
Oh, look, I don't make any predictions or presumptions about that, Pete. These are decisions for Fatima Payman to make and explain and defend.
OK.
My personal view is that we would achieve much more together collectively. Foreign policy is not made by Greens motions on the floor of the Senate. It's made by good governments working diligently, and I'd rather Fatima Payman be part of that effort.
Phil Coorey with an interesting piece yesterday. Treasurer Anthony Albanese quietly implementing a shift in budget strategy, allowing him to free up funds for election priorities. Does this set the scene for an early election?
Oh, no, Pete. I mean, this is part of the usual processes of government. You always try and work out what are your priorities and how can you afford to fund them and how can you sequence them. And so from time to time, we make decisions collectively, or the Prime Minister communicates those decisions to colleagues about how we prioritise and sequence our commitments. It's not especially unusual. It happens to be the third year of a 3-year parliamentary term, but really at every point, we've tried to be as responsible as we can. We've tried to get the budget in much better shape, turning those big Liberal deficits into Labor surpluses, funding our priorities in the most responsible way, and this is part of that effort. OK,
just a final one here before you go. The Coalition with a plan for divestiture. You've got a thought on that this morning?
Well, this is the same kind of shambles as we saw with their nuclear policy and their migration policy. The common features here are Peter Dutton always goes for the most divisive option. It divides his party, and then he can't explain the most basic details. One of the reasons why the last 3 big reviews of competition policy and the last review of the Food and Grocery Code quite recently was reluctant to go down this path because of the possible unintended consequences. Forcing supermarkets to sell. I mean, do they sell to another big rival? Does it mean the closure of stores? Does it mean less choice and therefore less competition in local communities? These are the sorts of details that they're unable to provide, and that's what makes them a risky and dicey proposition, particularly on the economy.
We'll leave it there, Treasurer. Appreciate your time as always, though. Thank you.